Good morning. Welcome to our time of devotional this morning as we kick off another week and enjoy the spirit of God's presence in our life. Let me lift up to you this morning the prayer concerns that I am aware of, because certainly we have several of them today that I want you to know about. We continue to want to hold our brothers and sisters from Tom Bean United Methodist Church up as they struggle with the cleanup and the rebuilding of their sanctuary after it was struck by lightning early this past weekend. We want to lift up Catherine Mayer, who fell recently and had a very large concussion and has been in the hospital because of that, and we want to lift Catherine and Mitch up as well. Rich Tom continues his treatment for his lung cancer that has been diagnosed. Dave Coppage, Jenny Reynolds' dad, had foot surgery and or ankle surgery and is doing well from that. Ken Shockley, Aaron Logan's granddad, is very seriously ill and is declining in health, and we want to remember Ken Shockley and Aaron and his family as they struggle with that. Tom Flick's father passed away last week. He was 93 years of age and had lived a long and productive life, but it is still difficult on the family because of the loss of a loved one. So we want to keep Tom and Jean and their family in our prayers as well. Lisa Hebert's husband died suddenly this past Monday on Memorial Day, and we want to keep Lisa and the family and friends in our prayers as well. And Wanda Cook, a longtime member of First United Methodist Church, died last week, and her graveside service was Tuesday, and we want to continue to keep that family in our prayers as they struggle with their loss. And I know there are others that we need to remember, so keep those that you know in your prayers as you remember them as well. This morning I want to continue to talk about the psalmist, a different one than I have used the last 4 weeks in a row, but today I want to talk about what the psalmist who wrote the 40th Psalm. Now, we don't know the guy, we don't know who he is, but we know he had something very meaningful to say. He said, "I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the desolate pit. He set my feet upon a rock, and he put a new song in my mouth." You know, I'm convinced that there are two kinds of people. There are those who are on a spiritual journey and know it, and there are those who are on a spiritual journey but don't yet know it. Our spiritual journeys include many things: the quest for the meaning of life, the search for God, and the hunger for significant relationships. And that quest is something that continues inside us until our dying days. But it's always human on our part to think that we can arrive at the destination of our choosing on the timetable that is most convenient to us. But oh, how the last 2 months have taught us differently. We strive for those big achievements in life like graduation and marriage and children, the big job or promotion, great wealth. With each of these achievements, we think we've arrived. But in a very real sense, we often remain captive to that fairy tale of living happily ever after. When in fact, my friends, that journey never really ends. Each step must have its own meaning, and we must strive to find joy in the direction of our lives rather than in the destination. Now I want you to hear that statement again. We must strive to find joy in the direction of our lives rather than in the destination. Our journey sometimes takes us on detours to places we think we don't want to go. And if we look back at these last 2 months, goodness knows we can identify some of those. But if we are thoughtful and observant, we'll often find that there are great lessons to be learned from life's detours. So often, they are times of great personal discovery when we feel most emotionally or spiritually lost. But wisdom doesn't come easily, we know that, especially the kind that allows us to understand the length and the scope of the journey God has laid out in front of us. Hear again the words of the psalmist. Listen closely. He said, I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the desolate pit. He set my feet upon a rock, and he put a new song in my mouth. What a wonderful word for us today in the uncertainty that is around us. So, let me end with this statement. Our ability to praise God is thus the gift of God and not our gift to God. Would you bow with me as we pray? Loving God, there are so many things on our mind today that we'd like to be able to have control of. But if these last 2 months have taught us anything, it is that certainly life is out there and we are not always in control. But we want to be. When really what we ought to be doing is trusting that God would sustain us and guide us in all that we do. Be with those people whom we have mentioned earlier in our devotional time, who have lost loved ones, who have loved ones who are ill. With the Tom Bean Church as they have suffered such tragic damage to their building. With all of those who seek and search for an understanding of what life is right now. Help us, O God, to trust in your presence. And we'll ask this prayer in your name.